So the first shadow was בשלום נפשי מקרוב לי. So why is the milchama called krov, which means kiruv? The answer is that the intent here is not to vanquish, but that the nefesh habahamis should also have a love for Hashem, and that requires a hisbonenus that the nefesh habahamis can also understand. Good morning, Ephraim. Are you still in California?
No, we're back.
You're back home. Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. So we're giving a chazad of the Maamar that we're well into. So the first question is why it's a battle, it's called krov. Kiruv, when a battle is the opposite of kiruv, and the answer is because the intent here is the transformation of the nefesh habahamis, or the engagement of the nefesh habahamis, not its defeat. So that is, therefore, in Avodah, what's required is a hisbonenus that a nefesh habahamis understands as well. The McGill student has to understand it as well. Otherwise, it's not pearl. The nefesh habahamis could respect the nefesh elikis, but not be affected by it. Right, as the McGill student will respect. We understand this. Makes sense to you. That's wonderful. I'm sure it's a wonderful truth, but not mine. It has to be a hisbonenus, as you mentioned yesterday. Are you here? He said he was reading some book on negotiation. The distinction between in an argument when the person you're arguing with, whatever that term is, says you're right or that's right, and you hear the distinction. So we want the nefesh habahamis to say not you're right, but that's right. So that needs a hisbonenus in the language and explained in such a way that we the nefesh habahamis understand. Good. That was Eis Aleph, Eis Beis. So this is in Milchama. Now, בשלום נפשי, however, which will lead to some questions subsequently after explaining what בשלום נפשי means. We just finished describing in Milchama. It's a discussion, it's a debate, it's questions, answers. What does it mean? Explain it. I don't understand, don't agree. Explain it to me. That's a Milchama. But בשלום נפשי is talking not of a Milchama. That the redemption happens b'shalom. And how is this? This is because, in the words of Eis Beis, a gilui oir elyon, that the person generates a revelation of a higher light coming from his neshama, in the face of which there's no war. Similar to, he says, the birur of the world that Torah affects in contrast to tefillah. Tefillah is karbonis, but Torah, which is engagement, the burning of the fat, the offering of the blood, the shechita before that, and all of the stages and steps in karbonis. Torah paskins about the world without directly engaging it, and thereby affects a birur. So this is a davening which is similar to a Torah kind of davening, a gilui of the rotzen, both ha'elyon of Hashem and of the person, in the face of which the resistance of nefesh habahamis is in his battle. Just want to mention again this very fundamental point. That davening, he mentions it here in one of the Oisias here. From the first Ois, Shas Leis Shlas Krova. It's based on at any rate, the translation is time of davening is a time of battle. Yaakov Avinu says he conquered Shem with his bomb, with his arrow, but Usi. That's the end of tefillah. So why is davening? Why is this the time? So this always makes the point we've encountered many times that the time of the birur of nefesh habahamis is during davening. The question is during davening. You're davening. You're praising Hashem. You're talking to Hashem. You're asking. You're requesting. You're thanking. Why is that the time of the bitter? You would think the time of the bitter Nefesh Bahamis is when you're engaged there in the world. It's skafia, and you face temptations and you break yourself in relationships with others. You conduct yourself accordingly. Don't give in to anger and to arrogance and so on. That's the bitter Nefesh Bahamis. If anything, not davening. It's when you're engaged in the world. That's when we fight the Nefesh Bahamis and we find it. Why is davening? Shas lois shas krova. Because the whole end of davening, what's the whole end of davening? The whole end of davening is that a yid affirms and connects to the truth of the Eibishter. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So it's the whole battle then. Davening is the battle between what's reality. What's reality? Is there an Eibishter also me? And my Tzayne is also valid? Or is Hashem's reality the exclusive reality? So even though I don't know if, and so if somebody will do this, Tovi Olav Baruch, I don't know if during davening is the time to think about one's miserable midas. How did Moishe Paul to put it to me? Something like that. Olav Shalom. I don't remember the exact quote. It was a gem. Miserable personality, but it was in the context of setting. At any rate, for some other time. His yahrzeit is coming up. Beishvat. I happen to know that because it's my birthday. So I happen to remember it. I'll call upon him. So that's davening. So if our davening is a real davening, it means that we've affirmed be'emes and sincerely Hashem Echad, then the rest of the day, that's where we draw the inspiration for the battle. Why should you not get angry? I'm entitled. No, I'm not entitled. Where do we challenge our entitlement to anything? It's in davening. That's the battle. So if davening is the way it should be, in other words, a reconviction every day deeper. Well, in theory, actually it's up and down. But that's what we're addressing, is the truth of Hashem Elokeinu, so much echad, so much so that Admo h'usbati tiftach, when you come to the Amidah, Chassidus asked the question, how is it we go from from Shema, declaring the absolute unity of God, and then to the Amidah with a whole shopping list of requests? Parnasa, health, forgiveness, and so on. So this answers because that's the Kavanah Halyoina, Adarab. After Shema Yisrael, which is the korban, the offering of oneself, the dedication, the declaration of the truth. We have to cover our eyes when we say, because why do we cover our eyes when we say Shema Yisrael? Because we've got to be honest. You can't look at the world and see it and be impressed by it and at the same time say Hashem Echad. That's an outright lie. So at least you cover your eyes. The Inyan is true. And you're struggling with making that real. But I have to shut the world out right now. I can't look at the world and declare you don't exist. You do. Like for me, you do. You don't exist in truth. So you have to cover our eyes. Akapanim. So what's Shmonesa? So Shmonesa is, okay, now the Eibishter wants to do it b'tachtonim. So Shmonesa begins with Admo h'usbati tiftach. The Jew can't speak in the sense of I have needs. I need to be forgiven. I need to be. You just finished saying Hashem Echad. What are you talking about? The answer is Hashem. You open my lips and my. This is what you want. You want the. So therefore, we need to be forgiven. We need panasa. We need health and redemption and all the things and the powers, the oppressing environment be subjugated. But be'emes, he can't even request it. It's Admo h'usbati tiftach. As you learn in Chassidus, Karishma is in Bria. What's Bria? Bria is the understanding of Atzilus. That's what Bria is. The understanding of Bittul b'Metzius. It's the understanding of Bittul b'Metzius. But then Shmonesa is Atzilus, is the actual Bittul b'Metzius. And the entrance to Atzilus is, you open my lips and sing, you want praises, then I'll praise you, but because you want them. You want the dark, right? You want to illuminate the darkness. I'm quoting Leonard Cohen. A kol panim. So that's why davening is a battle. The real battle of life is in davening. What's the emes? So to the degree that we have a sincere davening, to that degree, we'll be our ego a little softer during the day, a little bit, a little less prone to anger and entitlement, and things don't go my way, and get frustration, and laziness, lust, all the things we face every day. A little bit softened, a little bit embarrassed by it. There's different levels of davening, obviously, but a little bit embarrassed. Also, we catch ourselves. I just said Shema, I davened. What is this? What are you doing? Something of a little bit of a. So for that to happen, he's saying, in the first ois, this bonus of davening has to be such that it engages the me, the self. However, he says in nowadays base, that's one level, but then this pod the בשלום nafshi, with the nefesh bahamis is in this battle. You don't have a debate confronting such a truth. So this is now development, the rest of the mind, and nuance and nuance and nuance. So let's see it. Continuing Yachazorah. So continuing Yachazorah in the middle of Ois base. This is all based on the mind of the Mittel Rebbe in Shari Tshuva. Sefer called Shari Tshuva that has many gates. So he explains there that the true bittul of the ritzoynus of the nefesh bahamis happens through Gila Yechida. This is a hemshech to the previous Maimon. And he illustrates what about, and not through Gila of Chaya, of the Rotzen? Says no, because notwithstanding that that's an incredible level to reveal the Rotzen of the nefesh. He called it before Rotzen Elim, but now he's defining it. What level of Rotzen? I mean, really the atzmisdik level, Tainuk, Yechida, meaning, because when it's just the Rotzen, the will, I want to be a chassid, and it's a powerful will. In the words of one of the famous chassidim, Azoy nicht anders, it's like this and no other way, not negotiable. So that is very powerful. There's no debates there. However, what's happening is that the nefesh habamis is overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. Now, certainly, when on a lower level of engagement, his bonaness, that's certainly a milchama, argument, counter-argument. The metzius of the nefesh habamis remains. When the rotzen is revealed, it's overwhelmed. When it's an intellectual battle, understanding, and it's necessary, they're all necessary, of course. However, the nefesh habamis remains. Okay, he agrees. He's masking. But he certainly remains not in his battle. When is the true bittul? The true bittul, be'etzem is Megillah Yechida. And of course, it's going to ask later, this is Shaykh Das, what are we even talking about? Why are we having this discussion? But let's first say what it is. What he's talking here is the tzaddik gomer, not the tzaddik she'eina gomer. The tzaddik gomer. So in the face of Yechida, the nefesh habamis is mamish this battle. Why? It's not overwhelmed. Because in the face of Yechida, this is my truth. And what's Yechida? Yechida is Eibishter, period. Well, God created me too. He's my God as well. We touch, and when that is revealed, the nefesh habamis is this battle completely. So that's what we're talking about. Pada b'shalom nafshi here. So there's no, and he says at the end of the day, he says no place at all for a tzaynis zorim, foreign desires. And that's what the pasuk says. He says, Ki barabim hoy. Why pada b'shalom nafshi? How is it that there should be a redemption b'shalom? B'shalom means no resistance, not only no resistance, not because Shabbat is overwhelmed or convinced, is masking, no resistance because there is no resistance. He's completing this battle. Why? He explains in the Mikdal Rebbe that these words, doesn't say it in the Maimah, but it says it there in Shari Tshuva, that these words, Ki barabim hoyimodi, are the reason. Ki, because that's why part of Beshalom Nafshi. And Ki barabim hoyimodi means Gila Yechid. How so? He says there, because the many were with me. How's that Gila Yechid? Because it's the Yechid level that the many all possess equally. What's the common denominator of all of us is Yechid level. So this level of that the Rabbim have, which includes the Nefesh Ba'amis, not that he has the level of Yechid, but that he's a creation of Hashem. Doesn't have Yechid. That's why it's completely in his battle, in the truth of God himself, who is his creator. So now comes the question. Now, hang on. Podda b'shalom nafshi. Why is there a need for a pediyah? When you say pediyah, this is Ois Gimel now. Excuse me. I'm actually leaning further into the microphone, so the slipping is louder. I'm leaning the other way. What's the question now? If we're talking Gila Yechida, so there's no redemption. Redemption implies from something holding back, came out peacefully. There's nothing holding there's nothing holding the Gila of the Nefesh Alikis. Nefesh Ba'amis is in this battle. So we have an inherent contradiction in our pasuk. On one hand, he's talking about Podda b'shalom nafshi, or rather, Shalom. On one hand, he's talking about Shalom, peace, total peace. Kibarabim hoyimodi gila yechida, and that's a pediyah. There's no need for a pediyah. There's no need for redemption. No need, what's the word? Another word, pediyah. No need for to be released. There's nothing containing the nefesh alikis on any level. So the Mashmoy says, well, here we're talking about this inherent or this apparent contradiction, and that is, we're talking about a year that he needs to be redeemed, and yet his redemption comes through Gila Yechida, and still, Krovli, we have an intimate battle close up with the Nefesh Habamis, Mikrovli. Which Mikrovli means it's engaging, challenging my heart, my mind, every part of me. You know, Maga Krav, this is hand-to-hand combat. I'm being assaulted on every level. Mikrovli, and yet here's the big chiddush. Nonetheless, ki barabim hoyimodi shalom. There is a redemption that is a yechida redemption. And what's the nekuda? The nekuda answers, and therefore, this is shaykh to everyone. That's why we're learning it. It's shaykh to the one that's holding the level of mikrovli. It's a battle, and he doesn't always win the battle. In the words of the Maimer, someone holding the darg in the mucha. The yechida is behelem. Not just yechida, bechlal the nefesh alikis is behelem, is concealed in a concealed state. His consciousness is nefesh bahamis. The nefesh alikis peeks through here and there, perhaps. And yet, kibarabim hoyimadi, he shayches the yechida. Why is that? So he says at the end of the ois, because he remembers. Machshava, he's aware, he thinks about that he has a yechida, which the mind will explain in great, exquisite and beautiful detail. But already in Ha'ara 16, we learned Ha'ara 16 from Tanya. This is similar to what he explains in Tanya, Perek Chafei, the end of Perek Chafei. concluding that which began in Perek Yud-Ches, namely that the key to the Beinani, which means not crossing the line in Maisa, not talking about feelings and transforming feelings and despising sin or sensual pleasure, not talking that. Maisa B'Peil is that a person should remember constantly that if he was put to the test, he'd give up his life. That's Yechidah. And if he understands that everything we face in life is that issue of the test, yes, God, no God, denial or affirmation, then we would be faithful. So looking at the Isis there in Tanya, we're saying here now, it's a battle, it's mikrovli. It is mikrovli. But he wins the battle not because of his rotzen, and not because of his seichel, but because I am a Yid, and how can I do this? That's the Nekuda so far. We clear? He confronts his truth. How can I do such a thing? Like the famous Chassid of the Alter Rebbe that said how do you put it? His hot chassidus is gaiva. Meaning to say that a Chassid of the Alter Rebbe should do this. It's inappropriate. It's a contradiction, so I don't do it. I'd like to, but I don't. So this is the outline. Now is Dalet began the Yuvenze, the whole has about it. You know, some are more obvious than others, but if you learn the Maimer properly, it should be, if I only learned one Maimer in my entire life, it would be this one. And that should be every Maimer we learn. And that's the truth. They don't need more. Be'emes. In Russia, they were talking 60s and 70s, they were able to smuggle in, someone brought a mime of the Rebbe, and sometimes was missing the beginning or the end. In the early days, friends, there were very few no Maimarim of the Rebbe. None. The first Mugu one came out in the first one was H'tshk, Tavshin Yud Aleph, that was it, and then till 1971 or something. So I remember reading and seeing even a picture of it. So they said one mimer missing here and there. Everybody knew it by heart. They'll do this and this was. We don't need more. So why does it keep on pouring and pouring? Because I learned to know it already. So we need another shot, another injection, another kasha, another teretz. Maybe that will get my interest. Different ICS. On the other hand, that's true what I just said. But it's also, there's a mitzvah to know Yediyas of Likus, and you have to know Likus. Maybe she wants us to know him. So that's already something else. Another mind, Yediyas of Likus. But I mean, in terms of inspiration, changing me, one mind is enough. One oisev a mind. The kasha of a mind is enough. Okay, so now is Dalet. To understand this, we just said now what? That through the machshava about Yechidah, he affects the poda b'sholem nafshi mikrovli. It's a pedia, there's a battle, but it's b'sholem. Because he remembers, he's in touch with consciously his own truth, his Yechidah. To understand this, now comes the beer. But on the subject, just reminded, Chaim Serebransky in Australia, he was the son of one of the sons of the main shliach, Rabbi Serebransky. He went, I remember as a kid, he went Yuchva Tavshin Lamed to New York. Yuchva Tavshin was a big thing. It was 20 years. The siyum of the Mashiach Sefer Torah started by the Frierdiker Rebbe. he went, in those days, I think he was there for half a day or something. A day. Yitzchak was Fridays, maybe he was there longer. But he was like, and he said something like, it was enough to come, a blick, tona van Rebbe, just a look for one moment and go back. It's enough. If that's be'emes, be'pnimius, it's enough. And be'emes, even deeper, now after Gimel Tammuz, you don't have to go even anywhere. It's more difficult, it's easier. We have to go to the oil, the guf has to come along. So to understand this, to preface our pasuk in our parshas Vayetze. Remember, friends, this Fabrengen we're learning. This is the third maamar. It's the first time and only time. The Rebbe said 3 maamorim in one Shabbos. It was parshas Vayetze, Yud Kislev, Tavshin Chav Beis, and this third maamar, the Rebbe subsequently was Magia, Tavshin and Beis. It's Moga, this third one. Yeah. So the pasuk says, "H'ushavti." Yaakov said, "I'll return in peace to my father's house." Explains the middle Rebbe. What's the whole Inyan? The whole Inyan that he goes there, Yaakov to Charan to elevate the sparks, and that's what he's saying. That he's elevating the sparks in a way of Shalom, peaceful elevation of the world. That's what we're talking about. Now he says that the middle Rebbe, that Beshalom is based Shalom. 2 kinds of peace. A peace from L'mayla L'mata, L'mata L'mayla. This maamer that our maamer is based on, just shouldn't be confused, is not a part of Beshalom Nafshi maamer. Just mentions these ideas which we are bringing here. Now that applies that statement of the middle Rebbe whenever, anywhere, pasuk says Beshalom, it means 2 levels of Shalom. V'yashloimer, our pasuk here too. Part of Beshalom Nafshi Mikrovi Beishalom. L'mata l'mayla, l'mayla l'mata. And another pasuk where the 2 levels of Shalom are intertwined. And see later in the Maimon he revisits this. I was wondering why he brought it, but see later he expands. Which we say every day, right? All your children are learned of Hashem, and great peace to your children. What's great? Great is plural. What's the minimum of plural? 2. Here too, it's a remes Rav Shloim Banoich to 2 kinds of peace, which now leads to the question. And didn't we say we're talking about Gila Yechida? That's Malamayla Lamata. So what's this Lamata Lamayla kind of peace in this pasuk, part of Beshalom Nashi, which is talking about Kiberabim Hayamodi Gila Yechida? So again, it's pointing to this paradox. We're talking Gila Yechida, but there's still a huge battle rage. Melamata Lamayla, it's Bei Shalom. It's Mikravli. It's still a Krav with Gila Yechida, which would normally, classically, when Yechida is revealed, everything is this battle, there's no resistance, transformation. No. This Gila, the nature of this Gila Yechida is, that's for us, is that there's still a battle. And moreover, he says at the end of this ois, that the shalom that's achieved milamata l'mayla has an advantage over the shalom l'mayla l'mata. All right, so to understand all of this, we're still in Chazorah. Ois hey, everybody's following along so far? We're good. Ois hey, so he started the inyan is as follows. So layer by layer. So in Sholem, there's 2 kinds of rifanim. One is with the menagid, the opposition is neutralized, is battle. That's milamayla lamata. Then there's a second way from below to above, where the one who is being mevader, is engaged in the world of the nizbader, working with him. Now, what does that mean? When it's malamata lamaila, so the maila, what he's now saying now, the version of malamata lamaila is that his surrender is because he wanted to surrender, not because he was forced to surrender by superior firepower, but he wanted to surrender. However, that's the chayra maila. If you look at we're looking here, I say shaloi in italicized. Tzadrotz shaloi the nefesh bahamis. That's not like a maila. He is surrendering willingly. However, since after he surrenders, he's still a mitzias, he adds in the brackets that the mitzias atacht, that the elin and the tachten are opposites. Nefesh alikis is a likus, and nefesh bahamis is a creation, is a nivra, and certainly the guf. They're opposites. Therefore, he agrees, but still in italics in the next line, shayach shi nagid le'elin. He could still oppose. He could still oppose. Why? Because his world is the world of a nivra. The world of the nivra is, I am a mitzias, and he can't let go of that. So he's shaykh that he's going to be opposed, even though he's maskim in the bir malamata lamayla to the truth of the shalikis and of alikus and so on. So in avoid it means, he goes on to say that this bir that happens to the nefesh is being engaged in nefesh bahamis. We're talking the second life from malamata lamayla. So it's in such a way that nefesh bahamis also understands, and therefore loves and wants God, which is a huge thing. Nefesh bahamis by its nature is drawn to physical things, sensual things. And here he understands. The seichel nefesh bahamis comes to understand you have to love Hashem. Right, and we learned to Order 26 from Ayin Beis, elaboration on this point. What does it mean he understands? He's masking. He's masking. That's the best. He agrees. I could even agree. I mentioned this earlier, the distinction between your right or its right. But even in that gufa, it's right. It's closer to taking ownership, and now it's right for me. But it's still it, and there's me. It's right. Still a separation. That's as best as we can go. How much more can we want in any engagement with an nefesh bahamis, in conscious engagement? Nefesh bahamis should say, not only you're right, and because I just can't come up with an argument that's going to counter you. I've exhausted my arsenal. You're right. Elikus is the emes. A life of Yiddishkeit is the emes. But not only you're right, it's right. But still, and he's masking, so much so that he wants to be part of it. If you're right, good, go ahead. I'm staying here. It's right, I'm going along. But still, the Metzias remains. The Metzias remains. All in contrast to, we'll see, transformation, mamish. Gila Yichid. So let's move. Yeah, let's hit the pause button here to be continued based on Hashem tomorrow.